The doors of the Zarn command center closed with a deep metallic sound. Inside, the air was tense. Only the highest-ranking officers were allowed in this room. They had gathered for a top-secret war briefing. The lights dimmed. Cold blue glow lit up the long table. Seated around it were 12 alien leaders, each one known for strategy and ruthlessness. At the far end sat Ambassador Creel, quiet, still, and watching everything closely. No one noticed how he blinked slower than the others. No one saw the slight difference in how he breathed, 'cause Creel was not a Zarn. He was human. In disguise, a tall Zarn general stood up. His skin was scaled and dark green, his eyes sharp. "We are here to discuss the human threat," he said. A screen lit up behind him, showed a group of humans in combat running through smoke, wounded but still firing. Laughing, even after being hit by plasma fire. The room fell silent. The general's voice lowered. "They do not fear death. They do not retreat. Their minds are built for chaos." Ambassador Creel said nothing. Inside his suit, his skin was sweating. Not from fear, but from excitement. Every second here was dangerous. One mistake, and he would be discovered. But the data he was collecting was priceless. Every Zarn plan, every map, every weakness, he was hearing it all, recording. Nervous officer asked, "Why haven't we crushed them already?" "They are primitive." The general turned angry. "Primitive?" he snapped. "Look again." He played another video. A single human soldier cornered, used fire to force alien machines into retreat. He tore wires with his bare hands. Used enemy weapons with no training. Then, in the final seconds, he looked directly at the drone camera and smiled. The footage ended. Whispers spread around the table. Some were afraid. Some were angry. But one commander spoke with calm worry. "What if they are already inside our systems?" Creel's heart beat faster. "What if they are already among us?" Everyone turned to look at each other. Just for a second, Creel didn't move, didn't blink. The general shook his head. "Don't. Possible. No human can pass through our scanners." Still, the door suddenly locked. Voice from the wall AI said, "Security sweep initiated. Identity scan in progress." Creel's eyes flicked to the exit. Trapped. His suit was good, built from stolen tech and deep study. But even that had limits. He needed to act, and fast. Before the scan reached him, across the table, one of the commanders leaned forward. "Creel," he said slowly. "Say something. You've been quiet." Creel looked up, eyes calm, his voice smooth. "I'm listening," he said. But in his mind the countdown had started. The hunter was now the hunted, and the room had just become a cage. The air in the room felt colder now. The glow from the screen flickered as the AI's voice echoed again, scanning. Identity verification in progress. The officers shifted in their seats, some glancing at each other, others staring at Creel. The suspicion was small, but growing. Creel could feel it, like heat rising in a closed room. His pulse stayed steady, but every nerve in his body was alert. The suit he wore was built to hide his human biology, even under high-level scans. But it wasn't perfect. It had never been tested this deep in enemy territory. General Threx stood up and walked slowly around the table. His claws tapped the floor. "Something is wrong," he said, sniffing the air slightly. "There's a scent here. ... different." A few officers looked uneasy. One whispered, "Saboteur." Another hissed back, "Impossible. Security's locked tight." But no one sounded sure anymore. Creel adjusted his voice modulator inside the suit. Calm, controlled. "General Threx," said, "perhaps your fear is clouding your senses. Humans cannot pass through this level of security. If one had, they would already be dead." It was a dangerous statement, but Creel needed to stay bold. Weakness would give him away faster than truth. Threx stopped walking. His eyes locked on Creel. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe we are already under attack, and the enemy is just ... quiet." The screen behind him shifted again, more footage. From Earth this time, humans were fighting in icy mountains. Cold didn't slow them. Fire didn't scare them. One soldier, half frozen and bleeding, still managed to take down 3 Zarn with nothing but a metal rod. "How do they do that?" one officer muttered. "Why do they keep getting back up?" Creel answered without emotion. "Because you don't understand what they're made of." That silence after his words lasted too long. One officer leaned forward slowly. "Ambassador Creel, where were you stationed before this assignment?" Creel knew the answer in their system records. Had memorized every detail. "I was assigned to the outer post on Colony 6B. I was recalled 2 cycles ago." "You approved a transfer yourself," he said, locking eyes with the officer. The alien narrowed his gaze. He didn't remember approving anything. Then came the sound, soft but deadly. The body fell to the ground with a thud. Everyone turned. One officer, the one who had spoken just now, was on the floor, twitching. His mouth foamed, his eyes wide. Poison panic spread instantly. Officers stood, shouting, "Seal the room. Check everyone. There's an assassin." But Creel didn't move. He just watched. He hadn't touched the officer. He hadn't needed to. The scan paused, then glitched. "Identity. Error," the AI said. Creel smiled inside his mask. He had just bought himself a little more time, and time was all he needed. The chaos inside the war room grew louder. Officers shouted orders. Some drew their weapons. Others ran to the walls, trying to override the lockdown. The fallen officer lay still, foam dripping from his open mouth. Poison. Fast and clean. No evidence. Just fear. And it was working. Creel remained seated, calm, watching. His heart was racing under the synthetic layers of his suit. But his body showed no sign. He had been trained for this, trained to be invisible among monsters. But now things were changing. The scan had glitched. It wasn't supposed to happen. Someone else was interfering. The AI spoke again, its voice slower this time. "Unidentified signal detected. Source: internal base systems." General Threx froze. "Internal." "How?" he barked. Creel leaned forward slightly, his voice steady. "What if this attack isn't just physical? What if the humans are already in your data?" His suggestion spread like poison itself, quiet but deep. The officers looked at each other again, not with suspicion, but with fear. The lights flickered, just once, but enough. Threx turned to the command panel, growling, "Shut down all transmissions. Lock out every channel, nothing gets in or out." But it was too late. A new voice crackled over the speakers, garbled at first. "Clear, transmission secure, observation successful." One inside, more to come. The war room went silent. The message repeated. Same words, same voice. It was human. Creel's breath slowed. That wasn't his team. That wasn't Earth Command. Someone else had sent that message, and it had come from inside the base. Threx shouted, "Who sent that? Who is in our systems?" His voice cracked with panic. Alarms began to sound across the complex. Red lights spun. The AI stuttered. "Network breach. Sector 7. Movement detected. Inside the walls." Creel stood slowly now, knowing he couldn't sit quiet anymore. "You asked if humans could walk among you? Now ask yourself, can you survive it?" Weapons were drawn. Half the room pointed them at Creel. The other half aimed at each other. No one trusted anyone now. "Take off your mask," Threx roared. "Now." Creel paused, then laughed softly. "You think this ends with me?" he said. A loud boom echoed through the floor, distant, but close enough to shake the walls. Another explosion followed, and the lights went out. Darkness screams, and from the black came the sound of footsteps. Not one pair, many more than there should have been. The war room had become a trap. No one knew who the real enemy was anymore. The emergency lights flickered on, casting the war room in dim red glow. Smoke seeped through the cracks in the walls. Officers coughed and scrambled for their weapons. Panic was rising fast, like a fire in a locked room. The calm order of the Zarn Command Center was gone. Now only fear remained. And Creel, still standing, watched it all with sharp human eyes hidden beneath his mask. They had triggered the failsafe too late. The footsteps continued beyond the sealed door. Heavy, unhurried, confident, not Zarn, not machines, human, boots. But no human ship had landed. No alarms had gone off before. How had they arrived? Threx shouted. Open the war logs. Want all security footage from the last 2 hours. But the AI was frozen. Static filled the speakers. Someone, or something had locked it out. Creel took one slow step forward, his voice low. You've been watching us like animals. Running your tests, studying our weaknesses. But you never thought to ask one thing, Threx growled, his weapon shaking in his hand. Ask what? Creel tilted his head. What happens when the animal watches you back? Then he pressed something small on the inside of his palm, a tiny embedded switch. The projector screen behind them suddenly changed. No longer Zarn footage. Now it showed human soldiers. Not in battle, but in training. Harsh training. Brutal, endless, near-death drills. Men and women crawling through mud, under fire, carrying wounded across frozen fields. And in one clip, a soldier standing still while a firestorm raged behind. Him smiling into the camera, the aliens stared, confused. That Creel said was just our warm-up. A new voice came through the speaker, this one human, clear and steady. Wraith, this is command. We are in position. 2 minutes to breach, awaiting your call. The room turned to Creel. Threx's mouth opened slightly. Wraith, Creel, took off his mask. The face underneath was human, bruised, weathered, and smiling. Surprise, gasps, and growls erupted. A few opened fire, but Creel was already moving. He rolled behind the central console, sparks flying as plasma bolts hit the table. But Creel wasn't trying to kill, not yet. He was leading them into panic. Down below, deeper in the base, a soft hum began to build a low, growing vibration, as if the walls themselves were waking up. Something had been sleeping, something Earth had left behind, and it was no longer alone. Creel activated his link again. Send the ghosts, he whispered. The floor trembled. Threx shouted, What did you bring here? What have you done? Creel didn't answer. Instead, he closed his eyes for a second. His mind drifted to a memory months ago, on Earth. A freezing morning, rows of humans chosen for Project Ghost. Most didn't survive the training, yet not because he was the strongest, but because he never forgot what the Zarn had done to his home. This mission wasn't just about survival, it was payback, and it had only just begun. Smoke thickened in the war room as the floor trembled beneath their feet. The Zarn officers struggled to hold their positions, but confusion and fear had already split them. Some tried to re-establish control over the AI system, while others aimed their weapons at Creel, still trying to process what he truly was. Not a Zarn ambassador, but a human spy. Ghost in plain sight. Creel ducked behind a wall panel, checking his worn-down transmitter. Its signal light blinked green. Meant the others had made it. Earth's infiltration team, the Ghosts, had entered the base. He pressed the comlink again. Report. A voice replied instantly, hushed but clear. Inside core levels, 7 units moving. We've reached the server chamber. Uploading. Now, Creel smiled. Keep going. We don't just take the files, we own their command systems. He peeked out from cover. Officers were arguing now, shouting over each other. Some believed he was alone, a distraction. Others believed more. We're already here. And they were right. Suddenly, the main display screen changed again, hacked from the inside. This time, it showed a map of the Zarn base. Red lights marked key zones, communications, fuel storage, navigation, and weapons vaults. One by one, those lights blinked off. Offline, offline, offline. No, this isn't possible, Threx whispered. It is, Creel answered aloud, stepping into the open once more. His hands were up, not to surrender, but to show he wasn't afraid. You watched us, studied us, thought we were animals pretending to be warriors, but you never understood the truth. He pointed to the screen. We don't fight your kind because we enjoy war. We fight because we have to. And when we do, the lights shut off completely. We don't come to talk. Gunfire exploded. A few officers fired blindly, plasma bolts lighting the dark. But the bullets didn't hit Creel. Instead, something else moved, something fast and silent. A figure dropped from the ceiling. No sound. Just a flicker of motion. Then another. Then two more. The ghost team had arrived. Clad in dark reactive armor, invisible to sensors, they swept through the room with brutal precision. One officer tried to scream before being hit with a stun dart. Another turned to flee and was pulled. Into the shadows. No deaths. Not yet. They wanted prisoners. Witnesses. Fear would spread faster if someone survived to speak of this night. Threx backed into a corner, gasping, shaking. "What do you want?" he shouted. Kriel stepped forward, the last mask of his human identity now gone. "We want you to understand," he said coldly. "While you were laughing at our weakness, we were learning your systems, your language, your rules, and we just rewrote them." Suddenly another console sparked. The screen showed a message in bold human script. "Transfer complete. Zarn network compromised." Behind it, files scrolled rapidly. Secret documents, invasion plans, torture records, experiment logs. Everything was now Earth's property. Creel looked at Threx. "This isn't just a mission," he said. "It's proof." "Proof of what?" Threx spat. "That the real war," Creel replied, "hasn't started yet." And then came the voice from Earth Command. "Extraction ship inbound. 2 minutes. Beacons locked." Creel turned away from the shaking Zarn officers, walking calmly through the wreckage of their once unbreakable war room. The ghost team followed, fading into the smoke behind him. They had taken everything the enemy once held sacred there. Secrets, their pride, their power, and Earth hadn't even fired a shot. Yet the hall outside the war room was dark, lit only by the faint pulse of emergency lights. The smoke was thicker here, curling like silent fingers across the walls. Creel led the ghost team through the chaos with swift, practiced steps. Each soldier behind him moved like a shadow, silent, fast, deadly. Their suits made them invisible to security systems. But now they were running out of time. "Extraction ship is inbound," the voice from Earth Command repeated in Creel's ear. "Landing zone must be marked. You have 90 seconds. Creel's jaw tightened. That was the problem. The extraction beacon, the only signal the ship could track for landing, was not in the war room. It wasn't even on this level. It was hidden inside the base's deep reactor chamber, the most dangerous place in the complex. Surrounded by radiation shielding, auto turrets, and pressure-locked doors, exactly where Earth Command had predicted. They'd never look exactly where Creel had planted it. "Weeks ago, we have to get to the core," he said. "Move." The ghosts didn't question him. They turned left through a narrow tunnel. Gunfire echoed in the distance. The Zarn were reacting too slowly. Their command chain was broken. The AI was still down. But Creel knew it wouldn't last. If they didn't activate the beacon in time, the extraction ship would fly past, and Earth wouldn't send a second one. Not after what it took to get this one through Zarn space. As they descended through the lower levels, the signs of sabotage became clear. Lights shattered, walls melted by acid charges, Zarn soldiers unconscious, slumped in corners. The ghosts had prepared this route well, but one thing hadn't been planned. The reactor level wasn't empty. As soon as they forced the final door open, the floor shook. The Zarn defense unit, a large 6-legged machine with twin plasma cannons, turned its glowing eyes toward them. "Defense. Bot," one ghost shouted. Kreel dove for cover. The room lit up with burning light. Heat tore across the metal. One ghost went down, armor smoking. Another slid forward and launched an EMP spike, but the bot absorbed it. "Too old," Creel muttered. "We need something stronger," the bot charged. Creel didn't think he moved. Sprinting across the floor, he drew a thermal grenade from his belt and ran straight at the bot. "Cover me." The ghosts opened fire, distracting the machine. Creel slid beneath it, ripped open a maintenance panel, and jammed the grenade inside. He rolled away just as the blast rocked the chamber. The bot staggered, sparks flying from its legs. Then it fell hard. Silence, breathing heavily, Creel stood up and pointed to a control panel near the fusion core. There, the beacon's behind. That wall. One of the ghosts pulled the panel open. Inside was a small, round device glowing faint blue. Beacon is live, the ghost confirmed. Earth Command's voice returned. Signal received. Ship now approaching. 90 seconds to arrival. But just then the lights came back on. Fully, not emergency red, full power. The Zarn systems were recovering, and worse, the AI was back online. Unauthorized signal detected, it said coldly. Intruders, in core chamber. Activating security purge. Doors slammed shut behind them. Sirens wailed. Countdown appeared on the wall. Security purge in 45 seconds. Command, Creel said, panting. We're trapped in the core. Seals. Active copy, Earth replied. Ship rerouting. Prepare for high-speed extraction. Open sealing hatch. 20 seconds. The ghosts looked up. Above them, hidden in shadow, was the emergency vent shaft. Reinforced, sealed. Charges. Creel said a ghost climbed the wall fast, planted a sonic charge, and dropped. The explosion blew the vent wide open. Smoke and fire. Blasted outward. The countdown hit 10. Then a roar filled the chamber. The sound of a dropship engine cutting atmosphere. The extraction ship appeared through the hole, shaped like a dagger, hovering with force shields flaring. A cable dropped. Go, Creel shouted. One by one, the ghosts grabbed the line and were pulled up. Creel was last. He looked back at the reactor, the room where it all had begun. Then he gripped the cable, and flew into the firelight above. As the ship rose into the black sky, the base behind them began to collapse. But Creel wasn't thinking about that. He was already thinking about what came next. The extraction ship climbed fast through the upper atmosphere, engines roaring as it pushed past the base's crumbling infrastructure. Below, the Zarn command center burned. Explosions lit up the surface like lightning strikes.
The one sprout.
Fortress of the alien empire now looked like a shattered nest. Creel hung from the last cable, rising into the ship's open hatch. A ghost soldier reached down, grabbed his arm, and hauled him inside just before the doors sealed shut. Creel collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. His armor was scorched. One shoulder bled through a cracked joint in his suit. It was alive. The others were already checking each other's gear, scanning for injuries, confirming the mission data. No one spoke yet. They didn't need to. They had done the impossible. Beacon deactivated. Mission clock complete, the ship's pilot announced. Get us out of here, Creel said, pushing himself up. His voice was hoarse but steady. The ship angled away from the burning Zarn world and shot into the stars. But it wasn't over. A red warning flared on the ship's console. Incoming fire detected tracking Zarn orbital cannons. They're trying to shoot us down, the pilot snapped. They're angry. Good, Creel replied coldly. Let them be. The ship shook as energy blasts passed close. One shot skimmed the hull, frying the rear-com system. Sparks rained down and the cabin lights flickered. The pilot gritted his teeth. We won't survive a second hit at this altitude. Creel stood and moved to the front. Then we don't. Fly around it. We go through. Through what? The pilot asked. Creel pointed out the viewport. A swirling gas storm loomed ahead, a thick, violent pocket of electromagnetic clouds. Even the Zarn ships avoided it. Fly into the storm, Creel said. You're insane. No, Creel replied, eyes narrowing. The ship dove. Lightning flashed around them. The cabin lights died completely. Only the glow of control panels remained. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, the crew held their breath. One false move, and the ship would be torn apart. But the Zarn weapons couldn't lock onto them now. Their sensors would fail in the storm. That was the plan all along. Creel grabbed a handhold as the ship shook violently. Metal groaned. The crew braced for impact, then silence. They burst through the other side, into open space. The stars greeted them like old friends. Target lock lost, the pilot confirmed. We're clear. The crew let out their breath all at once. Some laughed softly. Some cried. Creel didn't react. He moved to the rear of the ship, where the data core they had stolen pulsed with light. Every Zarn file, every weakness. Secret, he connected his wrist unit to the core. Earth Command came through at once. Ghost Team confirmed survival. Alive and on course, Creel replied. Data secure? Creel looked at the glowing core. More than secure. It's a weapon now. There was a pause. Then Earth Command said, prepare for debrief. And, congratulations, Wraith. You've changed the war. Creel sat down, back against the wall. His body ached, but inside something had shifted. This mission wasn't just a blow to the Zarn. It was a message. Humans didn't wait for war to come to them. They walked straight into the lion's mouth and came out carrying its teeth. The dropship soared through the void of space, its engines glowing soft blue as it raced toward the rendezvous point. Inside, the Ghost Team sat in silence. The hum of the stolen data core was the only sound, pulsing. Like a second heartbeat inside the ship. Every member had wounds, burns, bruises, broken ribs, but not a single one complained. They had done what no one in the galaxy thought possible. Creel sat near the core, staring into the glow. His body was heavy with pain, but his mind was sharp. He knew this wasn't the end, not truly. They had struck the Zarn Empire in its heart, burned its pride, stolen its voice. But a beast doesn't die quietly. It lashes out. It hunts. And Creel was counting on that. The pilot's voice broke the silence. Approaching Earth fleet. Final jump in 10 seconds. Copen channel, Creel said, standing slowly. The signal connected. A giant display flickered on the ship's wall, showing the face of Admiral Reyna, Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Her expression was unreadable. Report, she said. Creel nodded once. We infiltrated the Zarn command base. Identity confirmed. Human systems remain undetected. You were compromised. Yes, he admitted. But only at the end. We activated the beacon. Ghosts are intact. Data core is complete. Her eyes shifted slightly. Did they see your face? Creel didn't blink. I made sure they did. Silence. Then she smiled just a little. Good. Another officer leaned into her view. Wraith, this is General Halen. Are you aware of what was in the files you retrieved? Fragments, Creel answered. HLLAN tapped his console. The files include live recordings of their breeding programs, prison experiments, genetic weapon trials on human captives. Things the galaxy never believed we went through. Now they will see the truth. Creel nodded. Let them. Reyna leaned forward. You understand, Wraith, we're going public? All of it. In one broadcast, Creel exhaled slowly. That's the point. Let the galaxy watch. The screen cut out. The ship's AI confirmed. Earth fleet now visible. Docking sequence active. But before the Ghost Team relaxed, a soft beep sounded from Creel's wrist unit. A private message. Not from Command, not from Earth. He opened it. You did well, Wraith. Phase 1 is complete. Await orders. Phase 2 begins now. No name, no signal source. Just a symbol. The same one from his first training day in Project Ghost. He looked up. We're not done, he muttered. One of the ghosts nearby frowned. What do you mean? Creel stared into space. We were never sent just to win a battle, he said quietly. We were sent to prove something. The ghost tilted her head. Prove what? Creel turned to her voice, cold and certain. That humans can walk among monsters. And not just survive, but change the entire war. As Earth's fleet swallowed the ship into its docking bay, the broadcast went live across the galaxy. Every screen on every world flashed to the same image. The Zarn War Council, screaming. The human footage. The experiments. The truth, and in the final frame. Creel's face, smiling. One sentence appeared beneath it. We were already among you. Galaxy changed that day. Not because humans fought harder, but because they had already walked into the shadows and left the monsters afraid of the dark.